Software sources, I guess I'll go over briefly, and this is another one that's going to need an authentication. So the reason why I think I'll only go over this one briefly is because it's something I'll actually show in more detail later on as a specific video talking about how to install software in a different way. But if you need to change your official repositories, you can do that. Gives you the websites for that, and this shows you where basically where your computer is getting its software from with the update manager and things like that. It actually shows it here. It's getting it from packages.linuxmint.com is your main source. And if you recall back to the early video that was talking about the update manager, the very first time it runs, it asks you if you want to use a local mirror instead of packages.linuxmint.com. So this is what it's talking about, is if you want to use something besides the main one here, then it would have allowed you to do that. But as I said back then, I don't usually notice a difference because my internet's pretty slow, so I don't ever feel like using the main Packages Linux Mint website is slow because it works just normal like the rest of the max that my slow internet can handle. It's able to serve up that speed just fine, so I don't notice any difference by using that a different mirror. So and optional sources, it says source code repositories, debug symbols, unstable packages. Most of the time you're going to want those to stay off, but if there is some reason, like unstable packages is one that in the past on an earlier version of Linux, I've had to use that to get a specific package that wasn't available in the stable branches of software. So but it's a specific use case. You most likely won't need any of that stuff unless you either really know what you're doing or know that you have a specific need for it ahead of time. Like, okay, I need to get this package from the unstable packages list, and so I have to allow all the unstable packages, or that sort of thing. PBAs, these are the other software source that I'm going to go into in a future date, because this is sort of an alternate installation method that bypasses the software manager and the update manager and things like that. So I won't go into that in detail here. Same with additional repositories. That's not going to be too useful most of the time, but you may need it at some, for especially with PPAs and things like that. Authentication keys, that will go into additional repositories. It's like a setting that you need to do as well, usually, to set those up the right way. And then maintenance, if you ever have problems with certain things, it says fix merge list problems, purge residual configuration, remove duplicate entries, add missing keys, remove foreign packages, downgrade foreign packages. So if you ever install anything from a PPA or something like that, or you notice some issues relating to that, you may need to come in here to the software sources and maintenance and run one of these functions here to fix certain issues that might be happening. Generally, you will probably be prompted to do this either by the system itself. It'll say go into software sources and remove duplicate entries, or whatever. Or else some advice from someone helping you try to fix a problem online, and they say go into your add a missing key that you don't have, or fix your merge lists, or whatever. I'm not honestly too versed on the finer points of all these, but I just know that sometimes there'll be if there are any issues that crop up in your experience, you may need to come in here and potentially fiddle. I'll just say fiddle with some of these. You may need to run some of these options at some point, but more often than not, though, you won't have to worry about it. I can think of only a handful of times I've ever had to do anything with this stuff, and it was when I had a lot of PPAs going in my earlier days of Linux, and I didn't really know that it's less secure or more risky to do that, and I was making more more risky maneuvers as far as stuff I was installing and fiddling with settings and didn't know when I was breaking stuff. And but that's okay. That's how you learn, is by messing a few things up here and there and trying again, whatever. So. But yeah, I don't want to go too far into that yet. But I'll come back to, especially the PPA section. I'll show you how to do that in a future video, because there are some particular software that's made for Linux that you can get online, and they are hosted online on a PPA, which is basically someone running their own version of a figure. It's kind of like a software manager, but it's only for a specific set of software. So it'll be like the software that they develop themselves, or a software that one group develops, or whatever. And it's a way to automatically update software through another source, basically. So and that is commonly something you may want to do, especially if you have a specific software that you want to use and you can't get it through the software manager, or installing it any other way through Linux easily. So it is an option for folks. So finally, here we have users and groups, and yet again, it's one that requires authentication. Alright, so here yours will not say your name and your name, probably, because that's just what I put for mine. But account type is administrator, because this is the account that I use to create the the system. This is the one that I used when I installed Linux as the main administrator account, and it shows what your name is shown as, and you can change that. It shows what your password is. You can't change it here. It says this user's home directory is encrypted. To preserve access to the encrypted directory, only the user should change this password. So and it says what groups you belong to. It says click to change the groups. But if you needed to add another user to your system, you can do that here easily with the add button, and you can say account type. It's either standard or administrator. So if you wanted to have the same level of privileges that you have as the system administrator, you could set them up as an administrator. Most other account types, though, are going to just need to be standard, because you generally only need one administrator password as far as the most common setup for computers and things like that. You're only really going to need one administrator user, basically. But if you had need or desire, you could change it here, add a new administrator. You could put in their name, like I just typed in your name for this particular system's setup, just for the sake of example. But then your username, it says just the username must consist of only lowercase letters A through Z, numerals 0 through 9, a period, a hyphen, or an underscore for special characters, and that's it. And that's just talking about just the username part. You can use, capital letters and spaces and stuff in the full name part. That's what actually shows up there. But and then if you just hit add when you filled that out, then you'll have another user who can log into your computer, and they'll have their own user settings and their things like that. And then groups, if you want to add additional groups, this shows all the ones that are there by default, but you can just go ahead and click add and add in your group name. I'm not really even sure what groups are generally used for, in a competent sense. I can see down here there's ones that are already there by default. And I'm guessing it's something kind of like what access levels you have to things. I see it says CD-ROM and stuff. So if you weren't part of the CD-ROM group as a user, maybe you couldn't use the CD-ROM drive. I'm not sure. But generally, I would say the defaults are probably going to be fine, whatever it sets you up with, whether the default groups and everything, without you necessarily needing to go in and change any of this. But if you did have a need to generally change it, or if you wanted to add a specific group for a particular reason, and assign it to particular users, whatever, you could do that there as well. And that just wraps up the overview of all the system settings, and not every single one. Obviously, I'm not an expert in Linux by any means, so there's some stuff in here I've never really used, and there's some stuff that I've only used once or twice over a decade. So But, generally, hopefully that gives you a good idea of what you're looking at here when you get into the system settings, what you can change and modify. Helps you to understand what some of these settings are, at least most of them maybe, what their purpose is and where to find them and things like that. So it should help demystify things a little bit for you, let you know the kinds of things you can change and modify to customize your experience. And so that'll wrap up that section. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. If you enjoyed this video and you want to learn even more, you can find my books at bookstoread.com/Jonathan. That's books, the number 2, read.com/JONATHAN.